Hello friends, Adam here with FED. We are going to be doing a skill tier list. Yesterday we did a class tier list. I figured we would just go a step deeper. I got a lot of questions about mastery skills and different stuff like that. So we are going to go over most of those, if not all of them, in depth today. Do want to say we're not going to be going over skills that are, for the most part, we won't be going over skills that are unique to one character or that are... like, we're not going to go over class skills. Like, we're going to go over class masteries that can transfer between classes, but we're not going to go over, nullified terrain or whatever, terrain resistance or whatever, because it's not a skill you can put into one of your 5 skill slots that you can choose. It's one that's like one of the 3 class sets. And we're not going to be going over personal skills either. So we're only focusing on the skills that can go in the 5 skill slots that you get to pick, regardless of what class you're in. So as you can see, there are a metric butt ton of them. There are so many skills we're going to be going over today. Here is the list of them. We are going to, we're going to start with like the weapon type skills, and then move on to stat affecting and then just everything else. It's going to be a bit of a video here for sure, but it's going to be fun nonetheless, I think. I'm going to try to have a good time doing this. All right. So without further ado, here are the tiers. So always useful. So regardless of the character, these are useful skills. Always useful depending on the unit. So depending on the character, this might be... These are skills like a lot of the pretty much every weapon skill is going to go into there except for a few, because it depends on who you're using and what weapons they're using. And some of the rallies might go in there, but we'll show that off. But what I do want to say is that just because they're always useful depending on the unit does not mean they are not as good as always useful. It just means they aren't universally great. They're not going to be always useful on everybody. And I'm not really going to take into account how hard it is to get a skill. There might be a few that I do, but for the most part I won't. Really we're just going to be looking at what these skills do and how useful they are in a maddening playthrough. So without further ado, let us get started. So always useful depending on the unit. We're going to put a few in there right away. Just depending on the unit, because it depends on who's doing what, who's using it. So all of these prowess skills in Reason level 5, but then all the prowess skills are going to go right here. I was tempted just to put them all into always useful because really if your character has that's the weapon they're using, therefore it's always useful. But because like sword skill won't be useful on your Wyvern Lord who is always has an axe equipped and stuff like that, then I'm just going to put it always useful depending on the unit. Again, because depending on the unit doesn't mean it's worse than always useful. It just means it's not always the best for everybody. Alright, next we have white magic level, or is it faith level 5, or the faith skill increase stuff. I'm going to put it into, I'm tempted to say don't bother with it. We'll put it into super niche, meaning it is not the... I mean, if you have someone who you want to use like Nosferatu with to do some Nos tanking for a turn or something like that, maybe it's worth it. But having the extra hit on your white magic spells isn't that important, because you're really not going to be attacking with those all that often. There's few instances where I would like to have that, maybe on Byleth, if you have his budding talent, which is plus 20 white magic void. And you pair it with this, so it ends up being like plus 30 avoid or something like that altogether. And then, just use heal, which it doesn't have, like it's super light, and then put him in a forest, then you got a dodge tank on your hands. Something along those lines. But I think overall it's just a super niche thing. It's not going to be your greatest pick. Okay, next. Authority. Level 5 and all of them. I'm going to put into rarely useful. Gambit. So authority level only raises your damage output with gambits, not your hit rate. If it raised your hit rate, it would be always good. But the thing is, you're not really, more often than not, you're not trying to deal a ton of damage with your gambits. I mean, it's nice to do damage with your gambits. For more often than not, you're just trying to freeze enemies in place, and that doesn't help you do that at all. It just deals more damage. So I'm going to put it in rarely useful. It might help you get a kill here or there, and if you don't have anything else to put in place of it at the time, might as well use it, but I don't think it's really great compared to a lot of these skills. Okay. Alright, now we have all the fares that are going to go into always useful depending on the unit, just because, again, same reason. It's not going to be great for everybody because Dark Tome Fare isn't going to go great on your... or Black Tome Fare isn't going to go great on your Swordmaster, you know. So it's just... that's the only reason why. They're always good for you attacking units. However, I'm going to put White Tome Fare in Don't Bother. I see next to no reason to use White Tome Fare. Again, there aren't very many good damage-dealing spells for white magic, and not very many people get the really good damage-dealing spells anyways. You're better sticking to just using Black Tome Fare or Dark Tome Fare for the few characters that use that instead over White Tome Fare, just because, again, it doesn't like make your healing more effective. It's just the attacking spell, so it's not that good, in my opinion. And I don't think it's worthy of having one of the 5 slots. Alright, now we got the evade skills. Sword Evade, I think these are... the evade skills are rough, because I feel like you need an actual build to go along with them for them to be really great. Like, if you pair, like, say you pair Lance Evade on a Falcon Knight, and Falcon Knight gets plus 10 evade, with, you even throw like Defiant Evade on there, and then Alert Stance plus. And now you're looking at a unit that is getting like plus, what is that? It'd be, math, like it ends up being like what, like plus 60 evade right there if you use Alert Stance. So that's great. So, but for most units, I don't think it's going to be that useful, especially on maddening mode, where enemies have pretty good hit rates, in all honesty. So I think I'm going to put these into rarely useful. I think you really need to make a build around them for them to be useful, and they're not like catch-alls for people. I think I'm just going to put them all in there. I think, honestly, even the magic ones I'm going to put in super niche. Because really, you're rarely going to have magic units be tanking damage, and if you are, or I don't know, you better hope their evade is really good. Okay. Breaker skills. I'm going to put these into rarely useful. It's kind of like these end up being like the replacement for the weapon triangle in a way. But I just find them to be rarely useful. I just think there's other skills that fit better into spots. There's rarely maps where there's a huge focus on one weapon type. So having your Swordmaster with Axe Breaker is great and all, but it's not going to like majorly affect the outcome of the map on every turn. I think it's rarely going to make a difference, therefore rarely useful for these. Again, and obviously this is just my opinion. You could totally disagree with me on all of this. That's fine. Just be respectful about it. That was all I ask, and tell me why I'm wrong in the comments with facts and logic, with reasons. Okay. Okay, weapon crit. I'm gonna put some of them in different spots. I'm gonna put these into usually useful, and that also is depending on the unit, of course, because the weapon they're using. For the physical attacking ones, but there's not really a lot of high crit. Not a lot of high crit weapons for magic, and white magic crit plus 20 is just gonna go into don't bother tier. Actually, I'm trying to think, is that even like, find him. Where are you at? This is Serenus Forest, by the way, where I get all my information. Yeah, you can't even learn white magic crit or dark magic crit. That's what I thought. So those don't even matter. So sorry I even brought those up. Those don't even matter, but they're there nonetheless. So they're listed, and you can't get them. I'm just gonna move them away because they're doo-doo. They don't count for anything. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Okay. Now we have the extra range magics. These are going to go into... Put you right there. And these aren't ordered in any particular way, because I'd probably put the fares above these in some instances. But yeah. And so black and dark tome range +1. Great. Amazing. They allow your units to attack from a distance safely, especially when they have the Caduceus or the Thyrsus staff. Then they're going to be attacking from 5 or 4 spaces away with a 2-range magic, and that's crazy. So I think those are going to be always great on your mages. But I don't think white. I think white tome range is a super niche skill. It doesn't affect your healing magic. If it affected your healing magic and allowed you to use like recover from 2 spaces away or something like that, that'd be awesome. I'd be all in on that. But it doesn't. It only affects your attack spells, so we're gonna put it into super niche. All right, Deathblow, depending on the unit. Fiendish Blow, depending on the unit. So these both give this Deathblow gives +5 strength when attacking, and +6. I'm sorry. And Fiendish Blow gives +6 from magic attacks. So they deal extra damage on player phase. That's almost always going to be great. So we'll put it there. Armored Blow, I'm going to put into like usually useful. I don't think it's that great. And the same goes for Warding Blow. I'm going to put that into rarely useful, actually. I think the defensive blows are less important than the offensive ones, especially Warding Blow. Warding Blow... There's not very often that you're going to be attacking on player phase and taking a magic hit. I just don't think that is super useful in 3 houses. A lot of times with enemy mages, you're going to want to one-shot them with a physical unit, and you're going to be able to with the combat art or something. I don't think that's very useful. Or there's even better ways to handle it, like just silencing them with like Marianne, and then killing them for free. It's Warding Blow, not really worth your time, in my opinion, unless you're... I don't know. I put it in rarely useful because I do see why it would be for some, but I'm just going to leave it there for now. Darting Blow, I'm going to say this is our first always useful skill. Darting Blow for any attacking unit just gives them a lot of extra speed on player phase, which is awesome. You're going to be able to double or keep yourself from getting doubled, and it's great. It is sad. It is female only, except for Euritza and male Byleth on New Game Plus. But all your female units, always useful. It's great. So I guess you could put that in depending on the unit, but I'm going to leave it always useful. Because this is more of like, depending on the unit type, is kind of where I'm going at. Like, depending on if they are like a mage, magic person, physical fighter or something. But this is always useful. Okay, Duelist Blow. Let me check, make sure I don't screw this up. I don't want to screw... I'm afraid I might get Duelist and Uncanny Blow mixed up, so I'm going to look at them real quick. Okay. Yeah, okay, I got it right. Okay, so Duelist Blow, +20 evade. I'm going to say usually useful. I think that's the same, similar to like Armored Blow, where it's not super great, but it doesn't hurt to have it. And it's going to help your unit be a little more dodgy. This is a great one to pair with like Darting Blow, and White Magic Avoid, and and Alert Stance or something. Not Alert Stance, that doesn't work. This doesn't. By the way, this doesn't synergize with Alert Stance at all because it's only a player phase thing. But I think it's usually useful on player phase. +20 Avoid is nice, and again, you can stack it with these different avoid skills too. Okay, Uncanny Blow. This one, I think this one could go into always useful. But the thing is, like towards the end game, hit rates become less of an issue. I don't know, I'm imagining they still can be. I'm going to put it in always useful. Uncanny Blow just gives you +30 hit on player phase. And +20 hit, is +20 hit. It's great. You're just going to be able to hit things without missing, which is super nice. Alright, now we're into the Defiance skills. And I think these are all pretty niche. Pretty niche. I think the most useful of them all, so I think I'm going to actually throw this one into usually useful, is Defiant Evade. Let me check the numbers again just in case. I'm going to mess this up. Defiance. Where you at? There you are. So it's evade plus 30, which is pretty good. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, I'm going to put that, keep that usually useful. Evade plus 30. Again, it's another thing that can synergize really well with, sword evade and then sword prowess, and then you just have a lot of extra evade. You can make this one can really make a dodge tank if you want to. I think that's probably one of the more useful ones. You can pair it with stuff like Defiant Crit and Defiant Attack or something like that if you want. But I think on its own, it's the most useful of the Defiant skills. And the other ones I'm going to throw into rarely useful, I think. Rarely useful. Not really worthy of... Oh, I'm just noticing I don't have the Defiant Defense logo. But it would go right. It would go here too. It would go in rarely useful. Okay. Moving on to the plus stats. These are all pretty good. Just the plus stats. I like them for the most part. So I think plus 5 HP, always useful. In the late game, you'll probably want to change it for something else, but I've had it on units in the late game because plus 5 HP, that's having, like, for one attack, that's like having plus 5 defense or plus 5 resistance. HP is a slept-on stat in 3 houses, and in Fire Emblem in general, HP is just a really good, important stat. Of course, if it goes all the way down, you die. So, don't sleep on HP plus 5. Good stuff. Strength plus 5, plus 2, I'm going to say is usually useful. I think there's going to be time. There's going to come a time when you don't really care for it, and you're going to want to trade it for another skill that you might find more useful at the time. But I think overall plus 2 strength is going to be usually useful. I'm going to say the same for plus 2 speed. Plus 2 defense is less useful. I'm going to put it into rarely useful. Same goes for plus 2 res. Plus 2 magic, I'm going to put into usually useful for the same reason as plus 2 strength. Plus 4 dex, I'm going to put into don't bother. Plus 1 move is going to be an always useful. If you're able to get the plus 1 move after getting your cavalry rank all the way up to like A plus or whatever it is, it's going to always be great. Having plus 1 move just gives you more options. Okay, now we're on to rallies. Rally skills. And you don't want these most of these rallies you don't really care to have on like high damage dealing units, but the people who can learn them are generally units that don't have that capability, especially in the early game. Units like Annette and other people. Let me look at the end of the list here. Sorry, there's a lot to know for these skills, and I just wanted to have Serenus Forest open so I didn't screw it up. Yeah. So, Rally Strength on, like... Well, Annette comes with Rally Strength as a personal skill, but also, like, Ignatz. Raphael's great. The Raphael should be doing a lot of damage. Rally Magic on, like, Ingrid. Great. And all sorts of different stuff. So, I am going to put some of them in always useful, because I do think some of these are always going to be good. So, Rally Strength is going to always be good. Rally Speed, I think, is always useful. Rally Magic... I'm going to put into always useful as well. Rally Dexterity is going to be... I'll say super niche. I think there might be a moment when you want to use it. Rally Defense, I'm going to put into usually useful. Rally Res, I'll put it with Rally Defense, I guess. Rally Move. Only plus 1 move for 1 turn is hard to justify using a unit's turn on. So I think I'm going to put it into rarely... I'm going to put it into usually useful, I guess. I was thinking about always, but I think usually. Rally Luck, I'm going to put rarely useful. Rally Charm, which is slept on, I'm going to put usually useful. Rally Charm, just the plus, what is it? Is it plus 8 Charm. So plus 8 Charm, which is a swing of 40 points of hit with your Gambit. Which can't exceed a certain amount, but it can take an inaccurate gambit and make it fairly accurate. So, or the full accuracy you can reach. So, I think Rally Charm is slept on by some people. Not very many people learn it. I think it's only Dorothea and Manuela. And, okay, Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude also learn it at S. But your early game is just Dorothea and Manuela. But it's great to have. It's a really useful to have around. Okay. Okay, the seal skills. I personally, not a big fan of the seal skills. I think the most useful ones are seal defense, and seal speed. So if you're fighting like I don't know, a divine beast or something that's particularly scary, just being able to lower their defense for an entire turn to take down like 4 health bars or something ridiculous can be nice. And same goes for rally speed, just to make it so more units can double them. But seal. I'm trying to say seal. Seal strength, I think, is rarely useful because you're generally just going to kill them anyways. Hopefully. Seal magic, same deal. Seal move, same deal. Seal res. Your magic units generally have enough magic just to kill enemies. I'm going to say that's super niche. Okay. Alert stance. This goes for alert stance plus and regular alert stance. I'm going to say always useful. Alert stance. I've never had a unit with alert stance and been like, oh, I wish they didn't have alert stance. I wish I gave them a different skill. Alert stance is great. Plus 30 avoid just for waiting makes for an enemy phase tank in a way. Pair that with a unit that has decent defense, and you can really rely on them to live for quite a while. So that if they do get hit, they're fine. I love the alert stance skill. Really, really good. And it really synergizes well with flyers, of course, because that's where you get it is from flying. But all flyers have plus 10 evade as a class skill, and then you pair that with lance evade, and then all that different stuff I already talked about. I think it's really good, personally. All right, the defense skills, AGs and Pavice, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong. I'm gonna put these into rarely useful. Rarely useful. I think Pavice might be a little more useful. If you put the one's really hard. If you have a unit who is really tanky, then it most likely will allow them to take more hits on enemy phase. But on less tanky units, it's not going to like save them. So I think if you have like a Fortress Knight that has 40 defense or something stupid, this is going to, and then Pavice is going to allow them to survive, a few more attacks on enemy phase. But your average unit, you're really banking on it happening so they don't die. I don't know. I just don't like that skill. Like the skill activation rate skills, I have a really hard time justifying. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, Vantage. Vantage is hard, man. Vantage is a hard one for me to rank. Because I could see it being really useful for units with like a high crit weapon, and of course, like that's the thing. That's the thing. Almost all these skills can be useful if you like put them together in the right way. So maybe this tier list isn't the best way to do this. Maybe another time we'll talk about like fun skill combos. But Vantage, I think I'm gonna put into rarely useful. Sadly, rarely useful. Right there. Oh, gotta adjust here. 1 second. Better. We'll stick with that for now. Okay. Where were we? Oh yeah, Vantage. It's hard for me to rank it any higher just because it's pretty niche. It's hard for it to really make an impact unless you pair it with other skills. And again, it's probably the better way to do like a video about this is to just like talk about all sorts of like all different like skill combinations that are really good and viable in a playthrough. Okay, Desperation. I was tempted to say don't bother with Desperation, but I think I'll say I'm gonna say super niche because it does have its uses. Desperation allows you to once you're under a certain once you are at low HP, and if you are we're going to double attack an enemy. Both of your attacks will happen before the enemy gets to attack. So it's a player phase thing. It can work to your advantage, but I think it's less useful than other skills you could have on if you're willing to, just heal your unit before attacking or something. So yeah, I don't think it's that good. Okay, Rath. I'm gonna put into rarely useful, just because I feel like Rath is useful if you pair it with a bunch of different stuff. If you pair it with Vantage and Defiant Crit, and Defiant Avoid or something, then you're golden and you're probably just going to destroy everything. But that's a lot to ask for and I think you're rarely going to set that up. So I'm going to put it into rarely useful. Plus 50 crit on enemy phase when you're under 50% HP is good. Don't get me wrong, but it's dangerous, can get your unit killed, and it really isn't a safe option unless you, again, pair it with other skills. So we'll put it into rarely useful, and you can pair it with other stuff to make it good. Okay. Renewal. Renewal. Oh, it's hard for me. I think it is going to be it's either rarely useful or usually useful for me. I'm going to put it into rarely useful. It comes from Bishop, so you're probably not going to have it on like your physical tanks that would actually appreciate having it. So it's not the greatest in terms of that. But if you were to get it on a physical tank, it'd be great. So I'm going to put it into rarely useful just for that, I guess. Close counter. I'm going to put it into always useful depending on the unit, just because it's only for bow units, and yeah, that's dope. Close counter with bows is always good. And, oh, I have distant counter here, which we're not going to rank, because only one person can get that, being Yuritsa. And yes, if you're using Yuritsa, give it to him. It's good. Use one of your 5 slots on it. Alright, now we have the Nullify skills. I'm going to put these into rarely useful. It's very rare that there are enemies that are going to be able to deal effective damage to a specific unit type, any of these 3. And for as far as cavalry and flying goes, you can just dismount if you're worried about it. So I'm really tempted to say don't even bother with those. I think I'm going to put actually, I'm just going to put them all into super niche. It's very rare you're going to run into a hammer to mess up your armor knight, or run into a lance, a horse slayer or something for your cavalry. And bows are on the map, but just dismount. Or I don't know. I'm going to put rarely useful for that one because I think that is probably the most common to see bows. So we'll say that. Okay, lethality. I would say don't bother because a 0.25% times dexterity % chance of activating isn't very good. I'll put it into super niche because it can just kill things. Hit plus 20. Always useful. Comes from Mastering Archer, which is early game, can be gotten pretty early, and it's good throughout the entire game. My understanding is that it affects gambits as well, so plus 20 hit on gambits. Plus 20 hit, pretty on point. Really good stuff. I would use it on just about anybody. Okay. Life Taker, I'm going to say rarely useful for Life Taker. So this happens on player phase when you kill an enemy. You get HP back after killing them. I forgot the exact number. Let me look at it real quick. I think it's 50% of your HP. That's what it is in Awakening, at least. Where are you at? Yeah, let's just do this the smart way, Adam. Life Taker. Yeah, recover HP equal to 50% of damage dealt after defeating a foe. Okay, so that could be even better than half your HP. But regardless, I think that's rarely useful. I mean, how often are you going to be attacking with a magic unit who's already damaged? Oh, say hi to Milo, everybody. Poison Strike. Rarely useful for Poison Strike. Let me fix this here. Sorry, guys. Poison Strike isn't that good. I know that there's other people who will tell you Poison Strike is worth your time, but most units that have a ton of HP, being monsters and divine beasts, they have a skill that has the effect of Poison Strike. So Poison Strike isn't even going to be that good to them. So I don't think Poison Strike's even worth it. On paper it can be good, but I don't think it is. Okay, Miracle. Don't bother. A percentage-based chance of you surviving a lethal attack is not very good, because you should just not put your units in situations where they're going to die. So Miracle, don't bother. I have heard people say, oh, what if you put it on your really tanky unit and a bunch of enemies, it could save them. No, don't bother. Not worth your time. Okay, Sacred Power, which only Byleth can learn, so I'm not going to rank, but I wouldn't bother with it. Only Byleth can learn it. It's plus 3 damage for units that are adjacent to Byleth. but not that great. Okay, model leader, they have the same sprite or same icon. Model leader is going to be I'm gonna say super niche. Model leader allows your battalions to level up quicker. They get I think it's double experience. Let me look at that real quick so I don't lie to you. Yeah, double experience earned for battalions, and that is super niche because once a battalion hits level 5, they are fully leveled and they don't need experience anymore. So you may want to use this every now and again, but not very often. I don't think it's very good. Okay, quick riposte. Regardless of how hard it is going to be to put on units, it is always useful. It acts as a wary fighter, meaning you only be attacked once, regardless of speed. And then on enemy phase, if you have enough HP, you will always double attack. Awesome. Need I say more? It is always good. Again, not every unit. It's pretty hard to get there. You need a fist and a axes to even get into the class, and then you have to master that class to learn it. But if you do, you'll be rewarded handsomely with an amazing, always useful skill. All right, pass. Super niche or rarely useful. We're putting it rarely useful. Pass can only be learned by a couple of units. It allows you to just move through enemy spaces. Claude gets it for free, which is cool. After time skip. But I don't think it is that good. You could pair it with like rescue. Do you get some extra to like warp player units behind enemy lines? But overall, I don't think it's that good. Okay, steal, don't bother. Rarely are there things to steal in this game. Transmute, I wasn't sure if this is I'm honestly not sure if Transmute is transferable between classes, but I'm going to put it into rarely useful, just because you have to take magic damage to make it work, right? Okay, let me look that up again. Sorry, guys, I just don't want to give you wrong information. Yeah, if hit with a magic attack, grants +3 to all stats, which is good, but you have to take a magic attack. You don't have very many units that want to do that just for +3 stats. Okay, unarmed combat. Don't bother. It's a stupid skill. The weight minus skills. I think I'm going to put it into always useful. They're hard to get to because you have to learn stuff. You have to get pretty high rank in armor, but they're pretty useful overall, so I'm going to put them there. And now Battalion... Battalion Desperation. Battalion Vantage is good. Battalion Vantage is pretty good. I'm going to say it is... I'm going to put that to usually useful along with Battalion Rath. Just because it's not any risk to the player unit. It's really just your battalion's on low health, so you get these benefits. And I think that's pretty easy to set up. Battalion Renewal, I think, is always another one's usually useful because that's just really cool. It just heals you if your battalion is low on health, which again doesn't affect the unit all that much. It's great. Battalion Desperation though sucks, so because Desperation isn't that useful. I'm gonna put it there. And finally, last one, Defensive Tactics. I'm gonna put it into rarely useful. If you find a unit is taking a lot of damage and their battalion is dying often, Defensive Tactics might save them, but I don't think it is always going to be a useful thing. It's rarely useful. It's pretty niche, honestly. But there you have it. That was a crap ton of skills to go over, and I know I didn't do some of them justice, and I hope that I did a good enough job explaining how I feel about them to you guys. Hopefully you can kind of see what I was going for with the tiers and everything. But here you go. This is the Fire Emblem discussion, the FED skill tier list for Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What would you change? Of course. Where would you move some skills? Maybe some fun personal experiences you've had. And on top of that, we'll say... Maybe tell me what you want to see next. What's the next tier list you want to see from 3 Houses, or next 3 Houses video you want to see? Because I'm down to make more. I'm kind of in a mood where 3 Houses is coming back for me. And then also like the video, helps with visibility, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, guys.